At dinner, my parents said, "You work while your sister enjoys. Don't like it? Leave." My name is Aurora Finley. I'm 31 years old, I'm an interior designer, and I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It happened at the Thanksgiving table. The house was filled with the smell of turkey and sage. It was the smell of a happy family. It was all a lie. The laughter was loud, but it felt thin, like glass. My father, David, sat at the head of the table. He looked at me, and his eyes were not kind. He was not looking at a daughter. He was looking at an employee who was causing a problem. He said the words that changed everything. Your job is to work while your sister enjoys life. Simple as that. He said it like he was telling me the sky was blue. He said it like it was a fact of nature. Don't like it? There's the door. The room went silent. The only sound was the clock ticking on the wall. Tick-tock. My mother, Clara, froze. Her smile was still on her face, but it was made of plastic. It was a mask. My sister Harper just smirked. She hid it behind her wine glass, but I saw it. She was 28 years old, and she had never worked a real day in her life. She was the dreamer. I was the mule. She won. She always won. I looked at my plate of food. I was not hungry. I would never be hungry in this house again. I pushed my chair back. The sound of the wood scraping the floor was loud in the silence. It sounded like a scream. But before I tell you how everything flipped, how I got this quiet apartment, and how I learned to breathe again, like and subscribe, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. I stood up. I did not yell. I did not cry. My voice was very soft. Fine, I said. I'll take the door. I picked up my keys from the hook by the entryway. My mother said my name. Aurora? It was a little gasp. I did not turn around. They didn't realize it yet. They thought I was having a tantrum. They thought I would be back in an hour, ready to apologize, ready to clean the dishes. They were wrong. Those were the last words I'd ever speak in that house. Growing up in Santa Fe, you learn about art. Our house was just off Canyon Road where all the expensive galleries are. Tourists walk by and look at bronze statues that cost more than my car. Our family was part of that world. Sort of. We ran Finley's Art Supply. It was not a gallery. It was a dusty, cramped store that smelled of turpentine, old paper, and my father's bad moods. It survived on its reputation, which means it survived on habit. Local artists and high school teachers came to us because they always had. I learned about favoritism before I learned my multiplication tables. Harper was the artist. I was the help. Harper was born 2 years after me, and she was born special. That's what Mom always said. Harper is just special. She feels things more than we do. What that really meant was that Harper was allowed to have feelings, and I was expected to manage them. When I was 11, I entered a statewide design competition. The prompt was to design a new public library for a small town. I worked on it for 3 months. I used scraps of mat board and balsa wood from the store. I built a whole 3D model. I designed the reading nooks, the high ceilings, the big windows that would face the mountains. I won first place in the junior division. My teacher called the house. I was so excited. My chest felt like it was full of light. I ran into the store holding the blue ribbon. Dad, I won! I won the state competition. He was at the register, counting pennies into a roll. He didn't look up. That's nice, Rory, he said. His voice was flat. Did you check in that new shipment of gesso? The light in my chest went out. It just clicked off. I went to the back room and started cutting open boxes with a box cutter. 3 months later, Harper, who was 9, finger-painted a sunset. It was just a mess. Red and orange and purple smeared on cheap paper. It was muddy. Mom cried. David, look at this. It's her soul. My father took it from her. He stared at it. My God, Clara, she's a natural. He took it to the store. He didn't just frame it. He used the expensive, hand-carved wood frame we sold for $500. He put it in the front window of the store. Then he put it in the other window of the store. He had 2 identical framed copies of Harper's Muddy Sunset. A sign underneath said, "The work of our daughter, Harper Finley, an artist." That week, Harper got a brand new iPad. To foster her creativity, Dad said. I asked for a new drafting table for my birthday. I got more chores. Harper is too busy creating to mop the floors. Aurora, Mom said, her voice soft and full of apologies. You understand, honey. You're the practical one. The practical one, that was my name. It meant I was the one who was not special. It meant I was the one who had to do the things nobody else wanted to do. Harper's art was just existing. She would float around the store, picking up tubes of expensive oil paint. "I'm feeling the shade of blue today," she would say. She'd take it, use it once, and leave the cap off so it dried out. My art was work. I built the store's new website. I balanced the checkbook. I designed the new shelving units to hold the canvas. And then I built them myself. My father called it good practice. Harper's bad grades in school were proof she was a right-brained creative. My good grades were just expected. "Good, you got an A in math," Dad said once. "You can start doing the store's taxes." I was 12. I learned how to use his accounting software. I learned that Finley's Art Supply was not a successful local business. It was a bucket with a hole in it. And my father was not a good businessman. He was a man who liked being a business owner. He liked the title. He liked telling people he owned a store on Canyon Road. He didn't like the work. He didn't like the numbers. I did the numbers. I saw the debt. I saw the unpaid invoices. I saw that he borrowed from the register to buy Harper a new laptop. I didn't say anything. I just fixed it. I moved money around. I called the suppliers and asked for an extension. I was 13, and I was lying to adults about shipping delays so they wouldn't demand their money. One day, I found a notebook. It was Harper's. It was a dream journal. It was full of pictures she had cut out of magazines. A loft apartment in New York, a trip to Paris, a new car. Underneath, she had written, "Things I will have." I had a journal, too. It was a plain black ledger. It was full of numbers. It was a list of all the people we owed money to. Underneath, I had written, "Things I have to pay." She was the dream. I was the mop, and that was our family. By the time I was in high school, I had no friends. I mean, I knew people. People said hi to me in the hall, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go to football games. I couldn't go to parties. I couldn't even join the school's design club. My extracurricular activity was the store. While other kids were at the movies, I was running the weekend shift. While they were at prom, I was cleaning dried paint pallets with a metal scraper, my hands raw and smelling of thinner. I woke up at 5 a.m. every Saturday. The air in Santa Fe is cold in the morning. I would ride my bike to the store. The streets were empty. It was dark. I'd unlock the heavy metal gate. The sound of it dragging across the concrete was the sound of my life. I'd turn on the lights. The store was always cold. I'd start the coffee not for me, but for my father, who would show up around 10, read the paper for an hour, and then ask me how the morning sales were. I was the one who hauled the 50-pound bags of plaster from the delivery truck. I was the one who dealt with the angry customers. "This brush is shedding," one lady told me, slamming it on the counter. I just nodded. "I'm so sorry about that. Let me get you a new one." I was 16. I was the store manager, the janitor, and the bookkeeper. My father gave me a paycheck. It was $50 a week. Cash. "Don't spend it all in one place," he'd joke. I didn't spend it at all. Every dollar I earned went into a big glass mason jar. It was an old pickle jar, and it still smelled a little like vinegar. I kept it hidden under my bed, beneath a loose floorboard. On the jar, I had written one word in black marker: college. It was my secret. It was my hope. It was the one thing that was just for me. I would count it every night. $60, $80, $120. It was my escape plan. My father found it. I came home from school. My room was a mess. My mother had been spring cleaning, which meant she had been snooping. The jar was gone from under the floor. It was sitting on the kitchen table. It was empty. My father was there. My mother was crying. Harper was looking at her phone. "Where is my money?" I asked. My voice was shaking. "We needed to talk to you about this, Aurora," my father said. He wasn't angry. He was disappointed, like I had done something wrong. "We are a family. We don't keep secrets," he said. "That was my money," I said. "I earned it." "I was saving for college," my father sighed. It was the sigh he always used when I was being difficult. "Dreams don't pay bills, Aurora. Work does." Then he looked at Harper. "Your sister needed a new laptop for her creative supplies. Her old one was so slow. It was hurting her process." Harper didn't even look up. "Thanks, Daddy," she mumbled. "You took my money?" I whispered. "You took my money and gave it to her?" "We invested it," my father said, his voice hard. We invested it in your sister's future. You should be happy to help. She's going to be a big artist one day. She's going to take care of all of us. I looked at Harper. She was taking a selfie. What about my future? I asked. My father just stared at me. Your future is here, Aurora. This store? This family. Who do you think is going to run this place when I'm gone? Harper? Be realistic. There was that word again. Realistic. My dreams were unrealistic. Harper's dream of being a famous brand was a sound investment. The math never added up. After that, I stopped saving. I stopped dreaming. I just worked. I graduated high school. I didn't go to college. I couldn't. I had no money. And the store needed me, so I worked. I worked for my father. I worked for my mother. I worked for Harper. Harper decided to launch a brand. It was t-shirts with her art on them. It was just pictures she took on her phone, printed badly on cheap shirts. She needed a website. Rory, you're so good at the boring computer stuff, she said. Can you just build me a little shop? So I did. I stayed up until 3 a.m. for a week, building her an online store. I managed the orders. I packaged the t-shirts. I took them to the post office. She made 3 sales. One was to our aunt. The business failed in a month. She left me with the bill for the website hosting and the shipping supplies. I paid for it with the tips I had hidden in my shoe. I was 22 years old. I was an old woman. I finally got a second job. I learned interior design online in those 2 hours between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. I built a portfolio. I got a job as an assistant at a small design firm in town. It was my first taste of real life, a real boss, a real paycheck. I had to beg my father to let me take it. What about the store? He yelled. I'll work nights and weekends, I promised. And I did. I worked 40 hours a week at my design job. Then I worked another 30 hours at the store. I did their books. I paid their bills. I fixed their mistakes. My paycheck from my real job. Most of it went to them. The store is just in a little slump, Rory, my mom would say. We just need a little help to get through the month. It was always just one more month. For 9 years. I was 31. I was tired. I was the one who built the walls, and I was the one who was trapped inside them. My college jar was long gone. It was just a pickle jar, and it was always empty. That Thanksgiving was not a surprise. It was just the end. The 70-hour week was real. I was a senior designer at my firm now. I was good at my job. I was managing 3 big hotel contracts. One in Taos, one in Scottsdale, and one in Denver. My firm was trusting me with multi-million-dollar projects. I was organized. I was efficient. I was the practical one. My clients loved me. My boss loved me. I was getting a promotion, but I was still the family mule. The week before Thanksgiving, the store's rent check bounced. My father had forgotten about a big invoice for Canvas that was on autopay. The landlord called me. Not my father. Me. Aurora, I don't want to be that guy, he said. His name was Mr. Sanchez. He was a kind man. But your father is 3 months behind. I can't let it go on. I felt sick. I'll handle it, Mr. Sanchez, I promise. I looked at my bank account. My savings. The money I was saving for a down payment on a small condo. My own escape plan. I transferred the money to the store's account. 3 months' rent. It was almost everything I had. I worked 70 hours that week. I was at the Taos Hotel site, dealing with contractors. I was on calls with the Denver clients until 10 p.m. I was redrawing floor plans. I was exhausted. I drove straight from Taos to my parents' house for Thanksgiving dinner. I was 2 hours late. I walked in. I was still wearing my work clothes. I had dust on my boots. The house was warm. It smelled like sage. Harper was on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. She was wearing a new dress. She looked perfect. Manicured nails, fresh hair. Oh, good, you're here, my mother said. She kissed my cheek. It felt like dry paper. Can you help me with the potatoes? My back is just killing me. I didn't even take my coat off. I went into the kitchen and I started mashing potatoes. At the table, I tried to talk about my job. I had to. I had to make them see that I had a real life. It's been a crazy week, I said, trying to sound casual. We finally landed the Taos resort contract. It's a big deal. It's the biggest project of my career. My mother smiled. Oh, that's nice, dear. She turned to Harper. Did you hear Harper's news? Tell her, baby. Harper looked up from her phone. She was beaming. Oh my God, you guys. I am officially collaborating with Crystal Vibes. I had no idea what that was. They're a huge brand on Instagram, she said. Like I was an idiot. They're sending me a whole box of healing crystals. And they're paying me $500. For one post. My father raised his glass. That's my girl, see? A real entrepreneur. Building her own brand? We're so proud of you, sweetie. $500 for one Instagram post. I had just signed a contract that would bring my firm over $1 million. I had just paid 3 months of their rent, and they were celebrating $500 for healing crystals, the math. It never ever added up. I was so tired. The exhaustion was like a heavy, wet blanket. I couldn't be polite. I couldn't fake it. Not this time. That's great, Harper, I said. My voice was flat. I turned to my father. Dad, we need to talk about the store. His smile vanished. This is not the time, Aurora. When is the time? I asked. The table was quiet. The rent check bounced. Again. I had to cover it. All 3 months of it, my mother gasped. Oh, Aurora, you shouldn't have... She had to, my father said, his voice low. It's the family business. It's your business, Dad, I said. My voice was getting louder. I can't keep doing this. I have my own life. My own job. A job that I am working 70 hours a week at. I can't be your bookkeeper and your bank and your janitor anymore. Harper's eyes filled with tears. Why are you always attacking us? Why do you have to ruin everything? You like working. You're a workaholic. Just let us be happy. This is not about liking work, Harper. I snapped. This is about fairness. I work, I bleed. I stress, and you get free crystals. Stop it. My father yelled. He slammed his hand on the table. The glasses rattled. You want to talk about fairness? He said, his face turning red. He pointed his fork at me. I'll tell you about fairness. And that's when he said it. Enough. Your job is to work while your sister enjoys life. That's your role. Simple as that. The silence that followed was heavy. It was thick. I could feel it pressing on my skin. Your role. Not my daughter. Not part of the family. My role. He finally said it. He said the quiet part out loud. I wasn't a person. I was a function. I was a tool. I was the worker bee, and my only purpose was to serve the queen. I looked at him, and I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I felt nothing. It was like a rope I had been holding onto for 31 years had finally been cut. And I was just floating. He wasn't done. Don't like it? He sneered. There's the door. He thought I would cry. He thought I would back down. He thought I would apologize. He thought wrong. Something in me split clean in two. The part that was the good daughter just died. It just shriveled up and turned to dust. I stood up. My mother said, Rory, sit down. He didn't mean it. Yes, he did, I said. My voice was quiet. It was clear. All the shaking was gone. I looked at my father. Fine. I'll take the door. I walked out of the dining room. I grabbed my keys from the bowl. I grabbed my purse. I walked out of the front door. I did not slam it. I closed it softly behind me. I got in my car. I started the engine. I drove away. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I left them at the table, with the cooling turkey and the mashed potatoes, and the $500 healing crystals. I left behind the only version of family I had ever known, and for the first time in my entire life, I took a deep, deep breath. I spent that first night in a motel off the highway, the kind of place with a flickering neon sign and thin blankets. It was awful, and it was the best night's sleep I ever had. The quiet was strange. It was so loud. I kept expecting my phone to ring. I kept expecting a knock on the door. I felt a little spike of guilt. This is crazy. I just walked out on Thanksgiving. They're my family. I should go back. They must be worried. I woke up the next morning. Friday. I checked my phone. Not one missed call. Not one text. They weren't worried. They were annoyed. They thought I was bluffing. They thought I was having a tantrum. They were sitting at home, arms crossed, waiting for me to come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. They thought I would show up to open the store. That one fact made me hard. It turned my sadness into something cold. And something strong. I was not a person to them. I was a broken appliance. They were just waiting for me to start working again. I ordered a coffee from the gas station next door. It was terrible. I sat on the motel bed and I drank it, and I waited. The first call came 2 days later, Sunday. My phone rang. The screen said, Dad. My stomach did a flip. The guilt came back. He's calling. He's sorry, I let it go to voicemail. My hand was shaking. I waited a minute. I took a breath. I played the message. It was not an apology. My dad's voice was barking, angry. Aurora, this little stunt is ridiculous. You think walking out fixes anything? It doesn't. You made your point. You're a great big drama queen. Now get back here and fix the books. The payroll is due Monday. Beep. I stared at my phone. Not, are you okay? Not, where are you? Not, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. It was, get back here and fix the books. I felt a cold laugh bubble up in my chest. It was a strange sound. I deleted the message. The next call came an hour later. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Beep. My mother's voice. She was crying. Or she was pretending to cry. It was hard to tell the difference. Rory. Honey, please come home. My back is out. It's just terrible. I can't lift these boxes of canvases that just came in. Your father is in a terrible mood. You always knew how to calm him down. I need you. Please, honey. I need you. Beep. The guilt. This was her weapon. It always was. My back is out. I need you. Your father is in a mood. It was never, what do you need, Aurora? It was never, how are you feeling? It was always about them. Their needs. Their comfort. I deleted the message. The next day, Monday, the text from Harper started. Text 1. Rory. Pick up! It's urgent! Text 2. Don't be a baby. I know you're seeing these. Text 3. Dad is going to kill me. Pick up the phone. I let her call. It went to voicemail. Beep. Harper's voice was fast and frantic. Oh my God, Aurora, where are you? Mom said you left, but I thought she was kidding. Look, I have this amazing idea for a pop-up paint and sip class. It's going to be huge. But the deposit for the rental space is due today. It's $10,000. $10,000. Dad said you'd handle it. Can you just wire me the 10 grand? Just 10. It's a sure thing. You'll totally get it back, I promise. Call me. He's really mad. Call me. Beep. I just sat there. I was not a sister. I was not a person. I was a bank. I was a bank that was suddenly permanently closed. This time, I did laugh. I laughed out loud in my car. It was a cold, empty sound. After that, the calls and texts were a storm. Dad's messages got angrier. I am not kidding, Aurora. You are ruining this family. You're selfish. You're a selfish, ungrateful child. Mom's messages got more desperate. You're scaring me, Aurora. Are you okay? Please just come home. I'll make your favorite stew. This isn't funny. Harper's messages got mean. You're being so selfish. This was my one big chance and you're ruining it. You're just jealous of me. You've always been jealous. My phone was buzzing every 2 minutes. It was a constant vibration of their needs, their anger, their demands. I watched the screen. 10 missed calls. 20. 35. By Sunday night, 1 week after the dinner, it was 47 missed calls. I had found a small, furnished apartment to rent by the month. It was clean. It was empty. It was all mine. I sat on the floor. I drank a cup of tea. My hand was perfectly steady. I opened my phone. I went to my contacts. I clicked on Dad. I pressed block this caller. I clicked on Mom. I pressed block this caller. I clicked on Harper. I pressed block this caller. The buzzing stopped. The silence that came after wasn't empty. It was full. It was the sound of the heater humming. It was the sound of a car passing on the street. It was the sound of my own breathing, in and out. For the first time in my life, silence finally had a sound, and it was peace. They thought my power was in what I did for them. They thought it was my work, my money, my time, my energy. They were wrong. My real power was in not doing it. My real power was the off switch. And I had just pressed it. The first month of my silence was the loudest time of my life. I was working from my new empty apartment. I was trying to focus on the Taos project, but the aftershocks of my leaving kept finding me. I wasn't there, so I didn't see the store crumble. I just heard it. It happened in pieces. The first piece was a phone call. It was from a man named Jim. He was our main canvas supplier. He was a good man. He always gave me a discount. He always called me Rory, not Aurora. He called my cell, not the store. Rory? Thank God, he said. His voice sounded tired. I'm not trying to bother you. I know you're busy. But your dad's last check bounced. Again. And he's not answering the phone. He's saying some crazy things. He told me you ran off, that you stole money. I closed my eyes. I felt a hot flash of shame. No, not shame. Rage. He's lying, Jim, I said. My voice was quiet. I know that, kid, Jim said softly. You're the only reason I gave your dad credit for this long. You always made it right, so are you going to make this right? This was the test. This was the moment. Was I going to fall back into my role? Jim, I'm so sorry, I said. My voice was steady. But I am no longer with Finley's Art Supply. I can't help you. There was a long silence. What? He said. Rory, you are Finley's Art Supply. You've been running it since you were 16. Not anymore, I said. You'll have to talk to the owner, David Finley. But the owner is, he sighed. The owner is a fool. I know, I said. I'm sorry, I hung up. I felt sick. I felt like I had betrayed Jim, but I hadn't. My father had. That was the first call. It was not the last. The next call was from the local high school. The art teacher, Mrs. Pina. Aurora, I'm so confused. Our bulk order for the new semester. It's 2 weeks late. Your father said he couldn't find the invoice. And then he said you were in charge of fulfillment and that you'd let him down. Do you know when it's shipping? I took a deep breath. Mrs. Pina, I don't work there anymore. I'm afraid I have no idea. You'll have to speak to my father. Oh, she said. Her voice went cold. Oh, I see. Well, in that case, please just cancel the order. We'll take our business to the new chain store. I'm so sorry, Aurora. Well, good luck. She hung up. I stared at the phone. The school district contract. That was 20% of the store's income. The income I had secured, and it was gone. Just like that, I wanted to know what was happening with Harper. Her brand collaborations that she was so proud of. My silence with my family was total. But her Instagram was public. I made a new account. A burner account? No name, no picture. I just needed to see I found her page. Harper Finley Art. The post about the Crystal Vibes collaboration. It was gone. Deleted. I scrolled down. The comments on her other posts were not good. Where is the t-shirt I ordered? It's been a month. You sent me the wrong size and now you won't answer my DMs. Scammer. Do not buy from her. So the sponsorships had vanished. Of course they had. They weren't real. They were just free products given to a girl who had no follow-through. The 1 or 2 companies that had paid her were probably furious. Then I saw her latest post. It was a selfie of her crying. It was very dramatic. The caption was long. My family is going through an awful, traumatic time. A very, very selfish person has tried to ruin us. Because of this, I'm having to postpone my paint and sip dream. I've started a GoFundMe to try and save my art. Link in bio. Every dollar helps. I clicked the link. Her goal was $10,000. She had raised $50. There was one donation. From Clara Finley. My mother. It was pathetic. It was so pathetic. The final piece of the collapse came from Mr. Sanchez, the landlord. He had my cell number, too. He was a kind man. He always asked about my design work. He called me one evening. Aurora, he said. He sounded sad. I'm just calling as a courtesy. I'm putting the eviction notice on the door tomorrow. I sat down on my floor. It's that bad? It's worse, he said. He hasn't paid. The bank. The bank called me. They're seizing the business assets. He tried to bluff them, Aurora. Your father. He came into my office. He was yelling. He said I was ruining him. He said a big investor was coming in to save him. He said you were working on a deal. I closed my eyes. I'm not, Mr. Sanchez. I know, child. I know. He sighed. I wanted to tell you. I know you put your heart into that place. You were the only one who did. It's a sad thing. It is a sad thing, I said. For years, my paycheck was their safety net. I was the floor under their feet. They got so used to me, they forgot I was there. They thought they were standing on solid ground. They thought they were walking on air, held up by my father's reputation. They weren't. They were just standing on my shoulders. I was not a scapegoat. A scapegoat is who you blame. I was the pack mule. I was the one carrying the weight so they could walk around with their heads held high. They had built their entire world on the idea that I would never get tired, that I would never put my own needs first. I had been their one and only investor. I was their line of credit. I was their emergency fund. I wasn't a person. I was a resource, and now the resource was gone. The mine was empty. They were falling, and they were falling hard, and I wasn't going to catch them. My hands were finally my own. It was not my job to hold them up anymore. It was not my job to fix their bad math. My only job was to lock my door, turn up the heat, and get back to my real work. The work that I was paid for. The collapse was total. And I didn't have to lift a finger. I just had to stop lifting. A month after the eviction, there was a knock on my door. It was a sharp, confident knock. Not a police knock. Not a weak, pleading knock like my mother would do. I wasn't expecting anyone. My stomach flipped. I looked through the peephole. It was Aunt Violet, my mother's sister. I hadn't seen her in 3 years. Aunt Violet was nothing like my mother. My mother was soft, round, and full of tears. Aunt Violet was sharp, tall, and full of our facts. She was a forensic accountant for the state. She lived in Albuquerque. She was the only person in my life who had ever treated me like an adult. I opened the door. She was holding 2 cups of coffee from a real coffee shop. She was wearing a smart black coat. Her silver hair was in a perfect sharp braid. "Can I come in, Aurora?" she asked. "Or we can go for a walk. Your choice." "Come in," I said. She walked in and looked around my small, clean apartment. She didn't say, "It's so small." She didn't say, "It's so empty." She just nodded. "This is a good space." "Good light." She handed me a coffee. "This is for you. Black, 2 sugars." I remembered. I was so stunned I almost cried. She remembered. We sat at my small kitchen table. My hands were shaking. Did they send you?" I asked. Aunt Violet laughed. It was a dry, smart sound. "No one sends me anywhere, kid. Your mother called me, of course. She called me every day for a week, crying, hysterical." "What did she want?" "Money," Violet said, taking a sip of her coffee. "What else?" "She said you had abandoned them, that you'd run off, that you'd left them with this awful mess." I looked down at my hands. "It is a mess." "Yes, it is," Aunt Violet said. She put her cup down. "But here's the thing you need to know, Aurora." She reached into her leather briefcase. She pulled out a thick, terrifying-looking envelope. It was brown. It had a window. In the window, I could see the words, "Internal Revenue Service." "This, Aurora," she said, sliding it across the table. "This is the real mess. This is the mess you've been paying for and you didn't even know it." I just stared at it. "What is that?" "Your mother in her panic made a mistake," Violet said. "She called me for money." I said no. She kept crying. She said, "The bank is gone, the store is gone, and now the IRS is sending letters." That got my attention. She asked me to just look at the letters. "You're so good with numbers, Violet," she said. So I had her fax them to me. Violet tapped the envelope. "I've been suspicious of your father's business for 20 years. Now I have proof." "What proof?" "Harper," she said. "Harper. That art gallery idea she had. The one that failed 3 years ago. The one you paid the rent for and the one you took an extra job to cover." I just nodded. I felt cold. "They didn't just lose money, honey," Aunt Violet said, her voice low. "They claimed it. Your father and Harper. They got creative." She pulled out a sheet of paper. It was a tax form. They claimed $50,000 in fake business deductions. They filed Harper's failed brand as a subsidiary of the art store. They wrote off her car as a company vehicle. They wrote off her art trips to Tulum and Austin as research and development. They wrote off her dinners with her friends as client meetings. I couldn't breathe. But it wasn't a real business. It never made a single dollar. "Exactly," Violet said. "It was a shell, a fraud, a way to fund Harper's lifestyle and write it all off as a business loss. Your father was hiding his losses from the store by creating new losses from Harper's brand, and he filed it all together." I was shaking. "So, all this time, he wasn't just bad at business? He was committing tax fraud, Aurora," she said. Her voice was kind but firm. "He was stealing, and he was using your work to cover the basics, so he could play his stupid games." The audit hit. Hard. The bank didn't just pull the loan because of the bounced rent, honey. The bank pulled the loan because the IRS put a lien on the business. It was over. It had been over for years. You were just the last one to know. I felt sick. I thought I was going to throw up. They told me I was the problem, I whispered. They said my salary was too high, even though I never took one. They said I was the one who was bleeding them dry. Aunt Violet reached across the table and put her warm, strong hand on mine. Listen to me, Aurora Finley. You need to hear this. You need to let it sink into your bones. She looked right into my eyes. You did not break this family. You just stopped holding it together. I started to cry. It was a silent, hot kind of crying. They built a house of cards, she said, her voice firm. They built it on your back. You finally got tired and you stood up. It is not your fault it all fell down. A real house wouldn't have. She let me cry for a minute. They're lucky, she said. The IRS is just making them pay it back. With penalties, a lot of penalties. They'll be paying for the rest of their lives. But they're lucky they're not going to jail. She pushed the envelope toward me. This is a copy for you, just in case they ever try to say you were involved. You are a victim in this. A financial victim. You are clean. I made sure of it. She stood up. You are not your mother, Aurora. You are not your father. You are not your sister. You are something else. You're like me. You're a builder. So, go build. She walked to the door. Thank you, I whispered. No more thanks, she said. Just live well. It's the only thing they can't stand. She left. I sat at my table for a long time. It was worse than I thought. It wasn't just emotional neglect. It was criminal. The last tiny, stupid, clinging thread of guilt. It didn't just break. It burned. It turned to ash. That night I opened my laptop. I went to my email. I unblocked my father's email address. Just for a minute, I typed one last, final message to David.Finley, finleysart.com, Clara.Finley, ugmail.com, Harper Finley, art.com subject. Financial separation, body Aunt Violet visited me. I am aware of the IRS audit. I am aware of the fraudulent deductions. I will not be involved. I will not be paying for this. Do not contact me. Do not try to attach my name to your debt. Love isn't one-way labor. It is not a blank check for fraud. I wish you growth, but from a distance. I hit send, then I reblocked their emails. I blocked their phone numbers. I blocked everything. That was it. The last bridge was burned. But I wasn't the one who had set the fire. I was just the one who was finally walking away from the flames. By the time spring came to Santa Fe, the world had moved on. The consequences had settled. They weren't loud. They weren't dramatic. They weren't like a movie. They were just quiet. And they were permanent. The world didn't punish them. It simply stopped protecting them. The art store was the first to go. I was driving to a client meeting on Canyon Road. I took the long way, past the old building. The Finley's art supply sign was gone. The windows were empty. Harper's muddy sunset painting was gone. There was a new sign in the window. A bright, happy orange sign. Coming soon, Peachy Keen Yoga and Juice Bar. I found out later from Mr. Sanchez, who I ran into at the farmer's market. They sold it off for pennies, Aurora, he said, shaking his head. The bank just liquidated everything. The easels, the paints, the paper, all of it went for nothing. It was a sad day. I just nodded. It was. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I just felt a space. An empty space that used to be full of pain. Now it was just empty. The next time, I was at the FedEx shipping center. It was late, almost 9 at night. I was mailing a big tube of blueprints to my Denver clients. I walked in. The place was bright, sterile, and smelled like cardboard. And I saw him. I saw my father. He was wearing a purple FedEx shirt. It was too tight on him. He was standing at a conveyor belt, loading boxes. He looked old. He looked gray. He was not David Finley, owner. He was not the patron of the arts. He was just a guy loading boxes, working the night shift for $21 an hour. His hands, the hands that used to hold a wine glass and point at me, they were just moving boxes. He looked up. He saw me. I froze. My heart was in my throat. I was holding my heavy tube of blueprints. I thought, what did I think? That he would cry? That he would say he was sorry? His face went hard. It went dark. The shame turned into anger. It was always anger. He looked at me. He saw me in my nice coat with my professional blueprints. He knew. He didn't say a word. He just turned away from me. He grabbed another box. He slammed it onto the belt. He turned his back. I just stood there for a second. I mailed my package. I paid with my corporate card. I said thank you to the woman at the counter. I walked out. My hands were shaking. He hadn't changed. He hadn't learned. He wasn't sorry. He was just angry that he had to work. Angry that I was the one who was watching. The next one was my mother. I was on Canyon Road. It was a beautiful Saturday. Summer. The tourists were everywhere. I was with a client, a new one. We were looking at architectural styles. I was pointing out the adobe doorways, the vigas, the carved wooden corbels, and I saw her. She was sitting on a small folding stool, tucked into an alley, between two very expensive galleries. She was one of those artists now, the ones who sell small, cheap paintings to tourists. She was painting. The outline was right. She was painting little adobe doorways, small 5x7 canvases, a blue door, a red chili ristra, a string of fake turquoise. She was wearing a big floppy hat. She looked small, my mother, the woman who loved real art, the woman who thought my design work was just practical. She was now painting the most cliché, soulless tourist trap art just to make a few dollars. A tourist stopped, looked at the painting, and then walked away. My mother sighed. She put her brush down. She looked down at her paint box. She didn't see me. I was across the street. I felt a small, sharp, tiny needle of pity. She was Clara Finley, the art appreciator. Now she was just a woman on a stool, earning just enough to cover her prescriptions. I turned to my client. And if you look over here, I said, my voice perfectly level, you'll see the classic territorial style. I kept walking. I didn't look back. The last one was Harper. This was the one I dreaded. This was the one. I don't know what it was. I needed a frame. I had bought a print. A real piece of art from a real artist I admired. I was going to hang it in my new living room. I could have gone to any framer in Santa Fe, but I knew where I was going. I drove out to the big, ugly strip mall by the highway. I walked into the Hobby Lobby. The smell of cinnamon potpourri and plastic hit me. It was awful. I walked to the back of the store, to the framing counter, and there she was. She was wearing the red vest. It was wrinkled. Her hair was in a messy bun. Her nails, which were always perfect, were broken and had paint under them. She was Harper Finley, the artist, the brand, the creative, and she was cutting a mat board for a poster of a kitten hanging from a tree branch. She was clocked in. She looked up. She heard the bell on the counter. She saw me. Her face went white. Then it went red. Then it went white again. She looked like a cornered animal. "Can I help you?" she said. Her voice was a flat, dead thing. I looked at her. I looked at her name tag. Harper. I put my print on the counter. It was a beautiful, abstract landscape. "I need a quote on a frame for this," I said. My voice was quiet. She had to help me. I was a customer. She was the employee. She pulled out a tape measure. Her hands were shaking. She measured the print. 24 by 36, she muttered. She typed on the computer. She wouldn't look at me. She just stared at the screen. "It will be $120, she said. "With the basic mat and the non-glare glass." "Great," I said. "Thank you." I picked up my print. I started to turn away. "Aurora?" I stopped. I turned back. Her eyes were wet. "Are you happy?" she whispered. "What?" "Are you happy?" she said, her voice cracking. "You ruined us. You ruined everything. Dad lost his store. Mom is sick. I'm here. Are you finally happy?" I looked at her. The girl who got the iPad. The girl who got my college money. The girl who got the $500 for crystals. The girl who got $50,000 in fake tax write-offs. I thought about my answer. "Harper," I said. My voice was very soft. Very clear. "This isn't my fault." "Yes, it is," she cried. "No, this is just the math." She stared at me. "This is what happens when you run out of other people's money," I said. I turned around. I walked out of the Hobby Lobby. I didn't look back. The world didn't punish them. My father was no longer an owner. He was just an employee. My mother was no longer a patron of the arts. She was just a street vendor. My sister was no longer a brand. She was just a cashier. They weren't special. They weren't cursed. They were just people who had been living on a line of credit that was in my name. And I had finally, and forever, closed the account. 6 months after the Thanksgiving dinner, I was in a lawyer's office. It was not a dark, scary office. It was bright. The sun was streaming in. I was not being audited. I was not being sued. I was signing papers. I was sitting across from a bank manager. He was smiling at me. He had just approved my loan. My credit was perfect. My income was high. I was a valued client. I was buying my first condo, the condo I had been saving for, the one my father had tried to take from me, the one I had resaved for dollar by dollar. I signed the last page. My hand was not shaking. The lawyer said, "Congratulations, Ms. Finley." I took the keys. I walked into my own home. It was quiet. I walked on the Saltillo tile floor. It was cool under my feet. I ran my hand along the smooth, sun-baked adobe wall. I looked up at the open wooden beams, the vigas. I walked into the kitchen. It was clean. It was mine. I walked into the second bedroom. This would be my office. My real office. And then I walked out onto the balcony. It was just like the outline. It faced the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. It was late afternoon. The sun was starting to go down. The mountains were turning pink. That color they call alpenglow. This was the sunset I had earned. Not Harper's muddy, angry painting. This was the real thing. I stood there on my balcony and I looked at the mountains. And I cried. I hadn't cried when I left. I hadn't cried when my father yelled at me. I hadn't cried when I saw them, broken and lost. But I cried now. They weren't sad tears. They weren't angry tears. They were just water. They were just the relief. It was 31 years of holding my breath, and I was finally letting it out. The rebuild was quiet too, but it was mine. A week later, my boss called me into her office. My real boss. Aurora, she said. She was a strong woman. I liked her. The Taos project is stunning. The clients they're over the moon. They said your work is the best they've ever seen. Thank you, I said. I'm glad they're happy. They're more than happy. And so are we. She slid a piece of paper across the desk. We're promoting you, effective immediately. You are now the lead designer for the entire Southwest region. I looked at her, and, she said, we're promoting you to partner track. We want you to be a part of this. For real. She slid another paper. And that's your new salary. I looked at the number. It was a 6-figure salary. It was more than the art store had ever made in a year. It was my number. You've earned this, Aurora, my boss said. You've been doing the work of 3 people for a long time. It's time you got paid for it, I almost laughed. You have no idea, my new life was simple. I woke up on Saturday morning. I did not go to the store. I did not haul boxes. I did not do my father's taxes. I made coffee. I sat on my balcony. I drank my coffee, and I watched the sun come up over the mountains. I went to the farmer's market. I bought fresh bread. I went for a hike in the mountains. I met friends for dinner. I had friends. I had time for them. People who were not my family. People who would ask, "How are you?" And then, they would actually listen to the answer. I bought a dog. A little rescue mutt. A terrier mix. He was scared of everything. He had come from a bad place, too. I named him Sage. He slept at the foot of my bed. He didn't need anything from me except food and a safe place to be. And I had so much of that to give, now that it wasn't being drained out of me every day. One night, I was standing in my new living room. I was hanging that print, the one Harper had given me the quote for. I'd had it framed at a real framer. It looked beautiful. I looked out at the mountains. My family was always telling me to be realistic. Dreams don't pay bills, Aurora. They were wrong. My dream did pay the bills. It was paying their bills. My talent, my work, my practical mind. That's what they were living on. They thought my dream was a hobby. They thought their dream was the real work. I looked at the walls of my condo, the walls I had paid for. I hadn't found peace. I had built it. I built it out of 70-hour weeks. I built it out of spreadsheets and blueprints and sleepless nights. I built the life they never gave me. I built the home they never were, and it was a beautiful house. The walls were strong. I had built them all by myself. People ask me if I feel guilty. No, I feel free. I feel light. I don't hate them. I don't really feel anything for them at all. They are just people I used to know. I feel sorry for them. I feel pity, but I do not feel responsible, because I learned the most important lesson. Love without respect isn't love. It's labor. It's a job. It's loyalty that's been dressed up to look like a family. I didn't abandon them. I just stopped financing their comfort. I stopped paying for their bad decisions. I stopped setting myself on fire to keep them warm. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't yell. I didn't scream, I just left. And sometimes silence is the loudest justice there is. If this story hits home, if you know what this feels like, drop your city and state in the comments. Because maybe you've been the one doing all the work, while someone else just enjoys life. And maybe, like me, you're done.